In this lesson, we're going to be taking a passage from Villa Lobos Prelude number 4 that has right-hand arpeggios in it and quick shifts in the left hand of chord shapes. We're going to create or take an excerpt of this passage to make a little exercise out of it. And I want to talk about how we approach this passage. It's specifically a tricky passage that has a lot of common errors, I will say, that goes about it. Because what typically happens is we think of this as a fast passage and the notes get crunched and a bit lost. It sounds like this. It's a bit messy in the left hand. The arpeggiation in the right hand is lost with its clarity when we really want it to sound like this. We'll talk about speeding up, we'll talk about shifting, we'll talk about balancing out the right hand fingers. So grab your guitar and work with me. Perhaps pause this video and learn the passage, the little excerpt, so that we can easily play along together with this exercise. The first aspect that I think needs to get under control is the right hand arpeggio. It's P-I-M-A. Now, unlike many figurations in the right hand, this one has a natural flow. It's the way the fingers tend to fall off the strings, as opposed to A, M, I, P, or something else, some other combination of fingers. So the tendency with this one is to crush it and rush it. The second tendency is that we don't get each note of the arpeggio speaking or sounding clearly. So the first thing to do is to slow it down and get in control. The first step I would recommend is to do preparation in the right hand. So prepare thumb and I, M, and A all on their respective fingers, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string, and release one at a time, nice and clearly. As you cycle through the fingers, prepare the thumb, then prepare I, M, and A as a group. Then the thumb immediately after the A. P, prepare I, M, and A, prepare the thumb. That's the first step. Take some time to get that really nice and confident. Next, we want to make sure that these notes aren't getting lost in a blur. And the way to do that is to sometimes accent notes as an exercise. So let's start accenting the I finger. Let's move to the M finger. And finally the A finger. You can try speeding up the tempo a little bit. Speed it up with the M finger, with the I finger, and finally the thumb. The thumb usually is pretty good at being the loudest finger out of the bunch there. If you really found that your rhythms were lopsided, you could practice rhythms. Or the inverse. Practicing those dotted rhythms can sometimes work well to balance out some unevenness in the rhythm of your arpeggio. So next up, we want to have a control of that at a flowing tempo. So find a metronome speed that you are relatively comfortable at, and then we'll be inching up, clicking up the metronomes to get a little faster progressively as we go along. Okay, up 2 clicks, click, click. Up again. And trying to play along with the metronome, keeping a relaxed right hand and a steady rhythm. Finally, you can actually start to practice building up that speed so we get an accelerando, which is going to be really impactful with this passage towards the end. That would sound like this. That's going to be really dramatic and exciting with this passage. So getting it in the right hand, getting it clear, getting in control is the first step with this passage. Next, we're going to incorporate the left hand. The left hand, I think first and foremost, we need to make sure we deal with some squeaks, and have a look at the technique on reducing squeaks in the left hand here. What we're basically going to be doing throughout is lifting our finger that's on the fourth string or any of the bass strings and using the other fingers as a guide. So here at the beginning, lift, put down third finger, and then we lift as we shift. So instead of shifting the whole shape with fingers down, lift your third finger. You can keep your fourth finger, maybe even your first finger in contact with the nylon strings, then put it down again. Lift and shift. How'd it go? There it is. Lift and shift. Sometimes you don't have to do it on all of them. Perhaps you won't get so much string squeak going from down on the fret. Sometimes going up is the worst offender with string squeaks. You'll find out depending on your fingers and your guitar. But lifting and shifting there and keeping contact with the other fingers is the way to do it. The last thing I'll talk about is the placement of your left hand fingers. Know that you have these tiny micro movements to prepare your fingers in sequence. Next shape, 3, 1, 4. I'm keeping my fourth finger down on the second string for the guidance purposes to shift, and then I'm putting down 3 and 1 when needed. 3, 1, 4, lift and shift, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2. Those elements are all going to contribute to a really controlled and musical passage here. I'll make one more comment about that speeding up, the accelerando. So this is a long passage and we've got a lot of time, a lot of notes to get through, and speeding up like a concertina, like speeding up accelerando and then decellerando, is going to really allow you to be musical and give the illusion of speed sometimes too. If you start really slowly, anywhere near our top speed yet, but we've already got that engagement because we're speeding up very gradually but very intentionally. And then by the time we get to a faster tempo, it's really exciting. So more engaging, more exciting, and easier to play. So I highly encourage you to map out speeding up and slowing down in this piece, and taking that passage very, very slowly at the beginning to build up that excitement. Now this is a specific look at arpeggios in this piece, but the same principles will apply to many things. We saw in Carcassi, Etude number 1, Opus 60. Similar kind of approaches, sequential finger placement, control on the right hand, shifting with guide fingers on the nylon strings. All the same principles that are used with these shifting shapes and repeated right hand patterns.